The Corrupted Strike, in my opinion, is one of the best strikes ever designed, made, and released by Bungie, and definitely the best strike in Destiny 2. Now, why do I make such a statement when the general consensus seen throughout the community for the past couple of weeks has been that the Warden of Nothing is the best strike in all of Destiny 2? Which is a statement that I can agree in part, as the strike is very good, and it's up there. However, I do think that people's views on the strike have been influenced by nostalgia and the lore released in the strike. And I personally don't think that nostalgia and the lore of a strike should be a massive determiner on whether an activity is good or not. However, I cannot deny that the nostalgia created from the strike does feel good. But will I still feel the same levels of nostalgia, or any at all, in my 10th completion, my 50th completion, or even my 100th completion? Will that nostalgia still be kicking? Because as the newness of a strike wears away, and as it drifts closer and closer to commonality, will the character's dialogue and nostalgia still hit us like it did the first time? Because I know it won't, especially the dialogue in the fight. Because after a while, I just block it out, and so do most people. So those aspects I think are not as viable as other aspects, like the mechanics in the boss fight, the visuals in the strike, the setting, etc., all that kind of stuff. And all these aspects I think are exemplified more in the Corrupted Strike than in the Ward of Nothing, especially the boss fight. However, I'll get to that later in the video. For now, I'll go into the other aspects of the strike, like...
Do you know where the muffins go? They go along to take your money. Way down how we...
Now, I love the aesthetics of the strike. It's just breathtaking to me. I love every single room, every single cave, every rock, and most of all, every floating rock in the vast expanse of space. It's just so fun to stand this rock. Like, it's just so amusing to just walk around it. I could do this for hours. Oh, also the backdrop to the boss fight is okay, nothing too special. It's what I would say if I was lying, because the backdrop is jaw-droppingly gorgeous. Just look at the backdrop you're met with when entering the Addendum, it's just beautiful. The way that this mystifying purple hue slowly turns into a foreboding bluish purple as you travel further and further down the rabbit hole, just enthralls me with the fear felt when staring into the black void of space. The feeling of uncertainty, dread, and fear-filled curiosity just oozes from this backdrop. Like, think about it. They show at the beginning of this room a skybox filled with the purple smoke that covers both the Tangled Shores and the Dreaming City's skies, respectively. This creates familiarity, giving us a sense of comfort and security, as the gnome will always make us feel safe. However, as we peer downwards, trying to gain a scope of the Addendum, we see that our familiar purple sky is slowly being transmuted into a dark bluish purple, somewhat resembling the vacuum of space, instilling a sense of dread as our sense of familiarity is taken away, replaced with the unknown, creating a strange type of curiosity from the mystery presented by this strange area and its ambiguity. The playable area inside the Addendum continues this sense of mystery, as this area, the Addendum, is comprised of small rocky islands made up of destroyed working temples floating in an empty void. When traveling through this tipsy-turvy room called the Addendum, all I could think about was, what was the temple's purpose, why was it destroyed, and what power does this taken Sedna hold? And the last question is what really creates a fear-filled curiosity I and many people felt as we traversed further and further into Sedna's lair. Because fear is created by the unfamiliar and unknown. So when a person is presented with the unknown enemy, which has an unknowable amount of power, it instills fear into people. In this circumstance, it isn't really that much, but it does do its job, setting up a unique atmosphere for the fight, and the jumping puzzle before, actually making us have a small bit of fear before fighting Sedna. Also, this whole area, again, as I said, it's just beautiful. Honestly, it's amazing. I love it. And there's nothing really like this in the Warden of Nothing strike. The encounter prior don't really set the mood up like it does in the Corrupted strike, and most of the time you're just in a confined grey box. So I think aesthetically the strike and the art design is slightly superior to the Warden of Nothing. Because as I mentioned, it does so much more than just look pretty or look good. It sets up the mood, the atmosphere, everything. And I'm not saying that doesn't happen in the Warden of Nothing, but I'm saying that in the Corrupted strike, it is done to a higher standard, and I think it's a lot better in the Corrupted strike. I also think the mechanics and the set design are also done to a better standard as well. And that's the next topic I'm going to get on, so I'll just play the little intro thing I do. Now, the layout in each encounter room in the Corrupted strike, I think for the most part are designed to a high standard, and most of the time they're pretty unique. For example, the first encounter room you enter at the start of the strike is a jagged cavern in the Ascendant Plane, this place giving a sense of dread and abandonment. The layout supporting this feeling, making everything look broken by having the cavern's walls lined with several decrepit rocky ledges. Each one of these ledges being covered with an assortment of jagged rocks and crystals, resulting in the cavern looking like it was pulled apart from an environmental catastrophe that caused the cavern to have a nice, spooky mood. Now, this design choice of making the room jagged and broken isn't only used to instill the mood of the strike, it's also used to create not a unique counter, but a short and enjoyable experience where you jump from level to level killing groups of enemies as you traverse this broken landscape. Thankfully, this aesthetic and theme stay throughout most of the strike, as at regular intervals you'll be thrusted into the ascendant plane, the landscape being drastically changed, making it look similar to the aforementioned cavern, establishing the dark mood of the area, making this section different from the other encounters that happen inside the Awoken temples, breaking up each encounter into different experiences, visually and mechanically. As at parts you could be fighting through a normal Awoken temple, and then the next you're fighting through a dark and jagged cavern. It's just something I personally like, and I'm very happy that there's something like this in Destiny 2 Forsaken. Another perfect example of a good and unique encounter room is a small jumping puzzle in the Adytum. Now, this section before the boss fight, where you're jumping from Rocky Island to Rocky Island, does a good job of breaking up the fighting with an enjoyable jumping section, as well as allowing us to take in our surroundings, granting us the ability to glance at the landscape around and see the remains of the destroyed Woken Temple. The islands where you do have to fight are short and sweet, giving us a bit of excitement, but then putting us straight back into the jumping. These islands also restrict our movement because of their size, meaning that when we are engaging in the firefight, our movements are restricted, resulting in our fights to feel more engaging and fun, as we try to not fall off the edge while trying to kill some enemies. This is further magnified by the amount of enemies on the island, which is typically 10 to 13. Which, it doesn't sound like that many, but it's still enough to feel restricting and annoying on such a small island. Which is a good way of using your map to your advantage, as this artificially makes the fight on this island harder and more challenging, overall making this section more memorable and enjoyable. Now, saying all that, it's not like the Warden of Nothing has no fun, unique room layouts. Like the room LX6 has trains that periodically travel through it, while you're traveling down this room on your Sparrow, as trains are coming at you. Now, that sounds pretty fucking cool, doesn't it? And it is really fucking fun. And it's just great. I love it. It's fun. It is enjoyable. However, this mechanic only shows up a couple times in Strike, and the other mechanic in the Strike is the Exploding Mines, which are directly ripped from the Prison of Elders, and is only there to serve as nostalgia. And we all know how I feel about nostalgia. Also, you can fully skip the train mechanics in the Airlock 6 room entirely by running on the railing, which kind of defeats the purpose of the room. Because if you give players the option to skip something or skip an encounter, 90% of the time they're going to take it. So I think Bungie to take this out or make it like instant death area kind of thing, where you die in five seconds. So, or no, what do you call it? That's called a no-go zone. So I think you should put that in, and because that prevents players from cheesing the room. And I think, yeah, I just don't think it should be in there. While on the other hand, the Corrupted Strike has at least one of its mechanics in every encounter, bar like two. Even the boss fight uses all of the mechanics in it. These mechanics being the aforementioned traversing between the Ascendant Plane and back to our own plane of existence, and certain enemies having shields that can only be broken by throwing an orb at them. The teleporting to the Ascendant Plane and back is something that I love, and I think is used to good effect. Like this encounter here, where you're fighting a normal Ogre with the Hive. It's a pretty normal and boring encounter that, doesn't really add that much. However, this changes when your body is pulled from its location and placed into a broken version of the room you're just in. The Ogre that was once there has now been replaced with a taken one. And because of that fact, I think this encounter was done and timed perfectly, so that the experience of randomly being teleported isn't ruined. It makes it better when the only indicator that something is going to happen is when the corners of your screen start to glow, further putting the player in the dark. Overall, I think that the use of this mechanic is used to a great effect, and will still be enjoyable even after the 5th time doing it. While, on the other hand, the orb chucking is fun, but nothing really special. And that's good, because as I mentioned in my last video, the mechanics you add in don't need to be unique. They just need to be different enough from the repetitive shooting to break things up. And that's what this is. That's why I'm not going to overly praise this, because at the end of the day, it's a mechanic that isn't unique at all, which is good. So I'll just give Bungie a metaphorical high five. Now, saying all that, I'm not trying to knock the encounters in the Warden of Nothing strike, as most of the points I've made up to this point are mostly subjective, as the strikes are not really that different in enjoyability, and the only massive differences for me are the aesthetics in the strike, which is extremely subjective. You could think that the stuff in the Warden of Nothing looks beautiful, looks amazing, looks just sexy as, while you could think the stuff in the Corrupted Strike looks fucking like purple shit. But in my opinion, I think I think the stuff, I just think the mist and all that, just everything, every aesthetic in the Corrupted Strike is good. Well, everything, Warden of Nothing just looks like fucking metal scrap. Like I don't really like the aesthetic in the Warden of Nothing. It's okay, it's fine, but I do really prefer the really fucking strange out there sci-fi shit. That's like I just love that. That's why I prefer the aesthetics in the Corrupted Strike. Like that's pretty much what this comes down to. I just really like over the top, really fucking sciencey looking, just futuristic sci-fi shit. While the War on Nothing just kind of looks like it, I could realistically see the aesthetic in the War on Nothing being in like just normal day, while the stuff in the Corrupted Strike, like, that stuff just is out there as fucking. I love it. That's why I prefer the aesthetic. That's pretty much it. I just like out there designs. That's pretty much what the Corrupted Strike aesthetic is. However, there is one major reason why I think that this strike is better than the War or Nothing, and that is the boss fight.
Lovely. Please don't go, please don't go. I love you so, I love you so.
Now, in my opinion, there are two categories that every aspect in the strike either falls into. These two categories being pre-boss encounters and post-boss encounters. These two categories are pretty self-explanatory. Pre-boss encounters are the stuff that you do before encountering the boss, and post-boss encounters is just really the boss fight. And in my opinion, I think a strike needs to exceed in both categories, if in my opinion it wants to be a good strike. Warden of Nothing only succeeds in the first category. I'm not saying that the boss fight in the Warden of Nothing is bad, far from it. It's pretty good. Not amazing or spectacular, but pretty good. The problem is that you kill the boss fight in like 2 seconds, because the boss is just so weak and he dies so easily. And because he doesn't have any immune phases, that means he just dies pretty much straight away. Like, if you have a decent damaging super and a little bit of heavy ammo, he just dies instantly. Like, it's ridiculous. And like every single good aspect of the fight is instantly null and void because he dies so quickly. While the boss from the Corrupted Strike has a lot of health and forward damage phases, with immune phases in between, meaning that she cannot die straight away, from my knowledge. She also travels to the Ascendant Plane on the second damage phase, breaking up the fight, giving us a scenery change as well as changing the room's mechanics. These said mechanics are, for example, the first room having 3 different islands with massive rocks flying between each one, meaning that you have to traverse between each island carefully or you'll be hit by one of the rocks. And it's not like you can choose not to move island to island, because the strike forces you to move to island because you need to get orbs to break a shield and do damage. This little mechanic makes up each damage phase. Something else to mention is that there are a lot of enemies that spawn, making it hard to focus damage on the boss, as you will need to kill at least, some enemies. All these little mechanics and little things all add up to make this first room you fight the boss in challenging and fun, and just overall making an engaging fight so you remember it. When compared to the Warden of Nothing boss fight, the boss rooms isn't that good. It's just one big dome with 4 pillars for cover. Nothing exciting at all. And as I said before, the boss isn't better. The boss is just that servitor we talked to when we started the Prison of Elders in Destiny 1. Which is kind of cool, it brings us a little back to Destiny 1, and, it's a little bit, it's, again, nostalgia, again, as I said, nostalgia, you know how I feel about that. But it's still a cool aesthetic and a cool boss to fight. It also has some pretty cool attacks, like a massive fire laser and an AoE attack that slowly damages you over time unless you're behind one of those pillars. It can also spawn a mini-boss, which, as I said, are all pretty cool mechanics. If you could actually get to them, because as I said before, he dies so quickly, there's no point in even, thinking about these mechanics, because he just dies, making all these mechanics null and void and useless. They're really cool mechanics, and I do really enjoy them, and I think if you don't kill the boss straight away, then you could really enjoy a good boss fight. But, in my opinion, I don't think it counts, because most of the time, okay, for example, I go on a strike, I'm playing with some randos, we go on the boss fight, they just want to get done, kill the boss straight away. There you go, I can't experience the actual boss fight, because most of the time you're doing strikes with friends, and a lot of the time I've been playing with friends and they don't want to experience the boss fight, they just want to kill the boss, which is understandable. But I still want to experience the boss fight, and I think giving us the opportunity to just kill it straight away ruins the boss fight, because no one's ever going to experience it ever again, because they're just going to kill it like that. It's dead. It's gone. There's no more boss fight. There's no point in even playing the boss fight anymore, because you just kill them straight away. So I think the opportunity to just kill the boss that quickly is a problem, because now we can't even experience it. And it's not even the thing with like the probability, the like one Curse of Osiris strike, where at first it had separate damage phases and it was an okay strike and you could experience the boss fight. And now with all the new weapons, you can now just melt the boss in like 2 seconds. That's fair because we're able to experience it at the start, and now like there's no point in experiencing because we've already played it enough. But this is like one of the new beginning strikes, and even at the first week, we were still melting the boss, even though we had like barely any light. And it's just unfair because it's a cool boss fight, and I think it goes to waste because you have the choice of killing him straight. Because if you have the choice of killing him straight away, you're always going to choose it. That's just how people go. They always go to kill the boss straight away. Even if we just compare the boss fights and we don't talk about the fact that you can kill the one of nothing boss in like 2 seconds, the corrupted boss fights still win. Because when compared to Sedna, the Mad Warden doesn't even hold up with his mechanics. Because Sedna, for one, has two attacks that are intended to push you off the edge of the map, which perfectly meshes with the small boss room you fight her on. Furthermore, the next boss room in the Corrupted Strike also perfectly matches with the boss's attacks, as this room is just one big floating circle with a whirlwind of rocks spinning around in the center of the island. This whirlwind will kill you if you find yourself in it. Overall, just creating a fun boss fight where you're always constantly worrying about Sedna going and pushing you into these rocks and instantly killing you or pushing off the edge. Because, like, okay, for example, you're going into the boss, you've broken a shield, you're going in the damage phase, she can still attack you and she can still push you off the edge. Actually, no, I remember one time I had the orb and I charged it up and I was about to throw it at her, and she just goes, yeah, no, pushes me off the edge. I'm dead, and now I have to wait to get another orb. And I think that is just perfect example of a boss using her abilities as well as the environment to her, like for her, around her. Mess up a bit, but it's just a perfect example of that. And it's just so good. And the Wall of Nothing really has his AOE, and then you use his AOE and it does damage to you. You have to hide behind the pillars. That's cool and all. But when compared to Sedna and her attacks, that's a lot more engaging, and it's a lot more engaging than just going, hey, I'm dying here. I'm taking damage. Okay, I know what I need to do. I'm gonna go stand behind this pillar for a couple seconds, and that's all you do. You stand behind the pillar. It's not fun. Well, this one you get knocked off, and it gives you opportunity to fly back. Again, I know sometimes if you're like really on the edge, she pushes you off. Honestly, there's no chance. But when she pushes you off, there's an opportunity to get back there, and that's you being pushed off and then swinging around and trying to land back the island is a lot more engaging and a lot more fun than going, hey, I do damage. Go behind this little pillar thing now. It's a lot more fun than that, and that's why I'm saying this boss fight is better because her mechanics. The mechanics in the strike are yes seen in both. They both have very unique mechanics. Both mechanics work with the environment, but I think the one in Sedna's are funner, and she just has more of them than the One or Nothing strike. Now that's what I'm trying to say. And there's not just that. There's so much going for the strike. It has an amazing boss fight that meshes well with the boss room, along with amazing visuals that just feel massive. This makes this area feel just big, massive. It just makes the visuals just amazing. You've seen it. You've played the strike. It is really good, and I love it so much. It just fills me with the good feelings. And like not just that, it also has amazing encounters that are fun and engaging and that are only rivaled by the area. And if you're an aeriologist or part of the DBA Institute, then you understand what the fuck I'm talking about. But this is the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed watching me spend an extended amount of time debating whether if A thing inside of a virtual reality is better than B thing inside the same virtual reality. It is the equivalent of comparing which house is better. A house regularly used as a crack den, or one that is perpetually on fire. Both are equal in the shittiness, but one is slightly better than the other. And after coming to that conclusion, I have stopped playing Destiny 2, and have now started playing No Man's Sky next. Now that is a good game, that I've recently been playing for quite a while, since I got it on sale on Humble Bundle. And I've been really finding myself enjoying the experience presented by No Man's Sky. I just realized what I said. Well, I'll just go and find the nearest pile of cow dung and stick my opinions deep inside it. Just gonna put it back where it belongs and never mention any of my opinions on anything, and just stop making videos. Stop making all videos. As any statement I make after this point is now instantly null and void. Well, that means this channel is dead then. Well, I at least hope you enjoyed the video, and subscribe, like the video, comment, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram, follow me and everything, and put on notifications. Hope you enjoy nothing, and bye.